So welcome to the Node Technical Steering Committee meeting for March 15th, 2023. We'll follow the standard agenda that was posted in the issue, which was issue number 1355 in the TSC repo. Before we get on to the agenda items, does anybody have any announcements they'd like to share?
There was a release today that was 19.8.1 to fix a regression from 19.8.0, which was released yesterday, I think. I don't see Michael. It's also here, but I don't know if any releasers or anyone else has more information they'd like to share, or if that's the amount that we want to say at this point.
That sounds good. So go ahead.
No, that's accurate. The release today just reverted the one problematic commit, so we'll just have to go back and see what the issues were. What's up?
Okay, thanks for confirming that, and that's it's great to see the project turn around to fix that quickly. So, any other announcements? Okay, so on to CPC and board meeting updates. Rich, I don't know if there's anything to share on the CPC side.
At the meeting, there was support for our proposed charter change. I don't believe that. That's the main thing to know. That CPC discussed our proposed charter change, and there seems to be support for it. We're just waiting for approvals to accumulate. So, hopefully this week, maybe next week, we should be able to implement those changes.
Okay. And I guess no board update this week because we don't have Mateo. Okay, we can move on to the issues which are tagged for the agenda. The first one is stream bump default high watermark. That's 46608. I think there's also an active vote going on that one. I'm not sure if there's any discussion we need to do in that respect.
Yeah, there's an active vote. I think there have been 19 votes already out of the 22 GSC members, I think. So I guess if you haven't voted yet, please do so. But yeah, no discussions beyond that, I think.
Okay. The next one, which was tagged for the agenda, I think is sort of related from the discussion anyway, which is increased default max semi-space size value to reduce GC overhead in V8. That's number 42511. I don't know if anybody has context or wants to kick off the discussion on that. I think what I took away from my read on that one is, that one and the sort of other related one is, we have a number of defaults that we haven't changed in a long time. And so I think that one was tagged as like, it came up from the discussion on the high watermark as another one that it may make sense to actually, not use the default V8, the V8 default, because the V8 default is potentially optimized for environments different than our typical environments. I'm not sure if there's a specific question on this other than just like, hey, here's an FYI of another related one that, maybe we want to update. My closing comment before I leave it to other people was, I kind of wonder if like we do reviewing our platform defaults for the OSs and stuff like that at each major release, adding something that reviews these kind of defaults just as a checkpoint, like, could make sense to me, right? Like over time, they may no longer be the right numbers, and having a time we looked at them could make sense. I don't know if anybody has any comments, thoughts, discussion we should have before we move on to the next ones. guess we can leave this one on the agenda until we have Robert in a meeting, since I think did he add it to the agenda? Let me see. Yeah, he added to the agenda, so maybe it makes sense to leave it on until he can give us a little more context as well. Okay, so moving on to the next one. The next one is add GN configurations to Node.js 1353. I don't know if anybody wants to jump in on that one. I see, Jeffrey, you added it to the agenda. Do you want to provide the context or question we should discuss?
Well, there's a debate going on in that thread. I just kind of wanted to bring it more to the TSC's attention because like some of the early comments on that thread were very negative. Like, oh, we can't possibly consider replacing JIP. But I feel like I don't know if it should be a knee-jerk no to this thing because it's like JIP has a lot of problems of its own. And maybe on balance, it's the less bad of two bad options, but it seemed like we should at least give this some serious consideration, especially with the Electron team kind of throwing their weight behind GN. So that's all I had. I know nothing about the C++ build, so I don't have an opinion on it. I just wanted to kind of make sure that a broader audience saw this and saw the debate.
I think this time around, what the Electron team is asking is not replacing, like there might be the possibility of replacing JIP with GM, but that's not what they are currently proposing. What they're currently proposing is adding GM build configs into the core repo as some kind of unofficial build config there, so that they don't have to fork node or patch node when they build it. My personal opinion is I think it's not a bad idea, because if they have to like fork it or patch it, that's certainly not ideal, especially this is done by both Electron and V8. But we should try to, like, while we have two parallel build configs in the core repo, we should try to make it clear that only the JIP one is maintained by core, and the GN one is only there for the convenience of these other projects, and they're not maintained by us. But yeah, I think it's reasonable to like just place them there, because we also have like unofficial build scripts, like for example for Android there, and that's not something that we maintain, but we still have them there. So yeah, that's my take on the issue this time around. And like whether we want to move on to GN is probably something that we can consider later, but that would require more work than just, placing some configs in the core repo.
Yeah, I'm in the same opinion as you. Like I personally would have lots of concerns about like switching over to GN for different reasons. Don't want to get into that discussion, but I also think that it'd be useful to have like if it helps those downstream projects, adding in the configs should be fine. And even like a nightly test or something, if that helps, makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, especially considering that Electron and VA are both doing this. So they kind of have like repeat this work in different teams, which is not, something that you want, I guess, overall for the ecosystem.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing like hopefully as open source projects, we can help each other. And like you said, as long as it's clearly communicated that it's not like a supported thing and it's not a PR blocking thing, but if we can add things for little overhead to us and help another team, it seems like the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think there is also like one slight upside for Node is that if VA can, because right now, sometimes if you break Node in VA, they're not able to catch in time because they only enable small subset of the node tests in their integration tests. So if we have that GN config in Node so that they can like incorporate new node changes sooner, then it will be kind of like shorten the round trip time of finding breakages in VA, and that ultimately would help us, to try to not like let the breakage, like only let the breakage show when we do a VA update, which is pretty late. And it will be easier, like when whoever does changes in VA, just notice it when they try to land that VA CL, and the author of that CL will be able to fix it instead of like us having to find, locate the commit and ping whatever, ping someone who can fix it to do this. That would kind of like significantly increase the round trip time. Yeah, I don't have anything more to add, but I'm not sure. Like this would come down to, I suppose this might eventually, because there are some objections from the collaborators. So I think it might end up being, we have to kind of make a vote to decide whether we want to just place them in the core repo, or like if we are able to like reach consensus that, okay, we can just place them there, even though we don't maintain it, then probably it will just sort out that way. But if there are still objections about just adding them to the core repo, then we may have to come down to a vote.
I think some clarification in the issue as well to, like, I think part of the challenge maybe is the ask is just to include the configurations, but then it goes on to have a big, like, here's all the great things about GN and why you want to use it. So it might confuse the fact that it's just asking for the files to be there. So like if we clarified that, like, hey, we think just adding the files in and some of the constraints that you mentioned, and then asked if there are any more objections, that might help to see if there's, we'd need to have that vote or not.
Yeah, I guess actionable next step would be to ask them to like maybe if they're, because I think the person opening the pull request, the issue was already upstreaming some pull requests as prerequisite of adding GN configs to Node. Maybe we can, start by reviewing those pull requests and wait until the Electron team just maybe send some pull requests to like just adding them, and we'll discuss there. And whether we want to replace JIP with GN will be like a very far-fetched discussion after we add the GN configs to Node.
Right. Would anybody here have an objection to adding just the configs?
I think the only thing that might cause us some headaches is if we don't test them. So we might introduce inconsistencies between the build files that we do use and those that we just maintain for others. So if we do add them, we should probably also test to make sure that they remain consistent with our own build files, because not every error might show up immediately. Like if we forget to set some flag in one file and not in the other also, we might have different builds unintentionally.
I think
Sorry, go ahead, Joy.
sorry. my opinion is that no contributors do not have to maintain the GM. So it's okay that the GN config sometimes is broken, temporarily broken, when someone updates the GM file, the zip file without updating the GM file, because we'll also like, while we maintain two parallel builds, we will make it clear that we don't maintain the GM builds. Sometimes they break, but we do not take responsibility of updating them because the responsibility is on the downstream projects. But hopefully they will fix it soon, but it's not supported. But I guess like that's not really an exception because we also have, or we already have that with Android build files in core that we don't support. So sometimes it's also broken. So that's not like an unprecedented thing for me.
Yeah, I'd
And-
also, sorry, go ahead.
So, and it would be like, if the idea is that we have to maintain both, like the node contributors are taking the responsibility of maintaining both, then that would be, I would be a +1, a -1 to that, because that would double the work that contributors have to do. Like sometimes if you, you have to do both, and that's like, because the argument against JIP is that then it's terrible. JIP is terrible. But like if you have to do both, then you're like on top of having to do something that works with this terrible build system, you have one more thing to do instead of. So that's like ultimately a net lose, in my opinion. So but it's a net, it would be kind of like a net win if we don't actually maintain GM builds. So we still have to maintain the builds anyway, but we get the GM build sort of for free. That's okay, in my opinion. But it's not okay if we have to maintain both, because that would be a net lose.
Yeah, my understanding was that the expectation is that we'd maintain them, but if it's okay for them to have broken files in the node repo, I won't object to that. I don't necessarily see the point, but sure.
Yeah, I'm the same as Joey too. Like I wouldn't, I'm okay with just putting files in to, if it helps the other projects, but like us having to maintain it, then that's just like GN pulls in a whole bunch of stuff, which can make that quite challenging. But what I think would be fine is just like one nightly build that ran. And like, so that should hopefully let them more easily see when it's broken. And assuming that, from the comments in the issue that the people from Electron and V8 they were basically saying, well, we'll help maintain this. They should actually jump in and fix that pretty quickly. That seems like a balance between, the collaborators don't necessarily have to take a bigger burden, but we're doing as much as we can by both, including the files and running like a once a day build to see if it's broken or not.
Yeah, that idea sounds good to me.
So I guess back to like, is there anybody here who would have concerns just putting the files in? Basically, the model is like, the project we take the files, but we're not actually going to make them a blocker for PRs or maintain, expect the core collaborators to maintain them. We might add a test job, but then really it'd be up to the Electron and V8 people to keep them working. Does anybody have concerns or thoughts on that? Would people be okay if we put in, like, we discussed this in the meeting and there were 10 TSC members who didn't raise objections to that particular suggestion?
I mean, that would be a factual statement.
Okay, so I don't know, Joy, if you want to comment in the issue to that effect, or I'm happy to do it too.
Yeah, I can do that in the issue.
Okay, sounds good. Just take a quick note, capture discussion. And okay. So next issue is update charter to address membership challenges, number 1350. I think Rich, you'd given a brief update earlier. Anything else to discuss on that one?
Well, I just checked and there are now, well, yeah, I mean, nothing. I can get into specifics, but no, nothing much. I see that you gave it a -0, but no explanation, Michael. Is it because you find James's comment persuasive?
Yeah, I'm just sort of along the same thinking in that, like, I'm not gonna object.
I'm going to send you the same private reply that I sent to James.
Sure, okay.
And so,
Okay. Thanks,
but,
yeah.
Otherwise, it looks like there are no objections, and we have a decent number of approvals, and we have enough we have 8 of the 15 voting CPC members approving it, and I'm checking to confirm that there isn't a more formal process that needs to happen with the CPC. As soon as I get confirmation that I can move forward, I will move forward. So
Yeah, and I'll
this
go
will all be
over.
closed next week.
I'll head
Is
over
this
to
for
the
the-
CP. Sorry, go ahead.
Is this for the bigger change of like the TSC voting member thing, not simply the meeting requirement, right?
That's right. Colin closed the meeting requirement in favor of the change, the other change, which includes removing the meeting requirement, but also some other things. I don't know if Colin has anything he wants to add since he's here, but I think that basically covers it.
Am I the only one who feels like we should rename TSC itself, since it's like not just technical steering?
I would
wanna
like to
reopen the
avoid.
bag of worms with this particular PR.
I would like to avoid that scope creep, because we have, I mean, like, we can do that in a separate PR, but like right now we have, you know, everybody's we
I'm
have
not gonna
consensus,
disrupt this
and we
one.
have,
It
you
can
know,
be
and
a
I don't want
separate
to, yeah, I don't want to, yeah, but I agree that we could be better named.
Okay.
Yeah. I just, I headed
for
over to that.
For the stream, Colin commented in the chat that the TSC has had many names over the years. What's another change? Which I agree with that as well. So I contain multitudes.
So I headed over to add another +1 to the CPC one. How long? I think I'd have to go.
I don't
look
think
at
you're a voting
what
member, but I appreciate the +1.
I think I am.
I don't believe you are. Oh, wait, maybe you. Oh no, it's Mateo who's not. You are. Okay, yes, I'm mistaken. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think you are.
Yeah, no problem. Anyway, I think it's a time thing, so it may be that like a certain amount of time needs to pass. I'd have to go look at the specific governance, but
yeah, I'll either look it up or I'll wait for someone to spoon feed it to me on that issue.
sounds good. Okay. So yeah, anything else you want to discuss on that one before we move on?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, so the next one is update security working group number 1348. That I think is probably on for, I guess maybe our governance requires that.
So I put it on for visit. I put it on because we didn't have sufficient, wanted to attract more attention, but we have since it was added, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 if we include you, although it looks like you commented rather than approved, Michael.
Okay, that was a mistake on my part.
But we have, but it does, the point is we have 9 additional approvals, so I think we're good. I think
Okay.
someone can go ahead and land that if they want to, I think, at this point.
Okay.
which I'll do right now if you want.
Sure. Okay, and Frozen now has enough approval, which will land. Sounds good. Okay, so the next one then is proposal, making performance team a working group.
And I think I put that one on, but let me check.
Okay.
No, I didn't, did I? Someone else check. I thought I had it
Mateo
open in
added
tab.
it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. And he's not here.
No. There's some discussion. I mean, I think the discussion was trending towards making it a strategic initiative instead, but there's some recent discussion there as well. And
Yeah, I think it was we raised it I raised the point that normally when we make something as a strategic initiative, we have an end goal, but in case of performance, we don't have an end goal. It's normally a continuous work. So I don't see it being a strategic initiative. It's just a thing, I guess, that meet every 2 weeks.
So is it true that the strategic initiatives always have an end goal?
I pointed
Like
out
like
the
V8
example-
current,
yeah.
like V8 currency seems to just be a perpetual thing. Like I don't think there's really an end goal there. But all the other ones seem to have end goals. So yeah, I don't know.
That was the example I posted in my comment on that issue, was that one's been useful, I think, to have and doesn't have an end.
Yeah, because in terms like if they are trying to be a working group or strategic initiative to get some access, we can do it without a different nomination, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question, and I say this with having not looked at the issue in the last week. I looked at it last time, so apologies. But you know, I mean, the question is, what is the benefit to the project and to the people on the team of having it as a strategic initiative?
Yeah, agreed.
I think from my perspective, like one of the benefits is that we can easily in the meeting and on the issue highlight progress, non-progress, asks for help. So it's basically a little bit more visibility. And so if it's, you know, like V8, in terms of the V8 currency, that's something that's really important that we stay on top of. And so I'd rather have more information rather than finding it late in the game that we're going to miss it for a particular release or something. We might argue that like performance is strategic enough for the same reason.
Yeah, I'm not opposed. I would argue that that having V8 as a strategic initiative has basically done very little. It's based, I mean, having Michael Zazo, having Targos pay attention to V8 currency and some others, Joy is helping some others, but having someone like make it their mission has been what has been helpful. And I don't know that actually having it as a strategic initiative has benefited, but it would be interesting to know what Targos thinks about that, because maybe I'm completely wrong. And all that said, I wouldn't mind having a performance strategic initiative. I think that'd be fine, especially if it, you know, gets performance more in the TSC's collective face, and we can, you know, be sure it's getting the attention it deserves.
Yeah, just to reaffirm, I'm not opposed to. I'm just trying to make some sense in that change.
Sounds like we should probably wait for Mateo. I hate to say that, because I hate the let's wait for the right person to be at the right meeting, but unless something has happened in the issue that it can be resolved one way or the other, or unless everyone here is going to say no objection to making it a strategic initiative, and we just resolve it that way.
I think there's still discussion in the issue, so I just suggest, why don't we leave it on the agenda for another week and see what happens in the issue.
The node.js technical steering committee engaging in the usual bold leadership that we do of of letting the conversation actually happen.
Yeah. Okay, the next one is moving away from team discussions, 1340. I don't know if anybody has the context and wants to jump in on that one.
Well, it's my issue. Let's see who had it on the agenda. Oh, right. So, yeah, we need, oh wait, I'm looking at the wrong issue. Never mind. It was Targus who added it.
Yeah.
We want to know if there need to be more comments and approvals, and he can make the change when we're ready. I mean, I enabled org-wide. Oh no, this is about the specific team. Okay, yeah. I think we should. I think we should. Unless anybody here has objections, I think we should say that. You know, it's been open 2 weeks, and I support Targus going ahead and making this happen. And if nobody objects, if nobody thinks it needs to wait another week or has comments or concerns, I think that might be a comment I'll throw in there and just encourage him to.
Yeah, I'm just typing up an
check the
issue right
boxes
now.
and yeah.
It was like mentioned in TSC meeting today, been open 2 weeks. Everybody at the meeting agreed that Targus
Oh,
should.
you're in
move
it.
forward.
Okay.
Is that good?
Well, does anybody feel differently?
Yeah.
I don't. I just want to ask: is it just discussions from the node repository?
So. So I think this is about creating a space for private discussions with collaborators. Am I wrong?
Oh no, I must have misunderstood. I thought it was about migrating existing discussions.
No, there is
Okay.
that's a separate thing with org-wide discussions or whatnot. Yeah, we're going to transfer collaborator discussions because they're going away, the team discussions. And we're going to transfer it to a repository where only collaborators can, a private repo where only collaborators can see the discussions. So we can continue
Okay, that
to
makes
have
sense.
private discussions.
Okay.
Anybody else questions, thoughts before we objections? Okay, if not, I'm going to click the button on that comment. And I think I'll take it off the agenda too. Does that make sense?
Yes, anyone can put it back on if it needs our attention again, but the expectation at this point is that Targus or someone else, but probably Targus, will just make this happen and then close the issue.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, the next issue then is moving all translations to Crowdin and retiring all I18N groups, which is 763.
That was me, finally. Claudio asked me to add the agenda. So there's basically the agenda label. There's basically 3 things that need to happen. One of them Claudio can do, which is to accept invitations on Crowdin from people who want to join the team. But there are 2 things that need to happen for us to move our translation of the website to Crowdin, sort of roughly at the same time. One is announcing to all the translators about the move to Crowdin, probably via an org-wide discussion item. And then removing those teams, those members and teams, removing, individual GitHub teams for, specific languages. And we may find that, on the one hand, that's the one I'm mildly hesitant about, because it is sometimes useful to be able to ping a team of, say, Russian speakers to identify something, but given that most of the reviews are going to happen on the Crowdin site and not in pull requests, I suspect that we aren't in fact going to need them. And most of the people on most of these teams are people who are only on those teams and are not involved in Node in any way, shape, or form, and don't respond when pinged, frankly. Teams with like 10 or 15 people will often, you'll be lucky if you get 1 response. So I'm inclined to just go for it. And it seems like there has not been any objections, but also there have only been 3 of us really involved in the issue. So it would be good to, get a read on TSC sentiment on this, since it is GitHub team management. It is an issue in the admin repo, and that is stuff we're supposed to be doing. And actually, I'm going to look now to see if we pinged we did ping the TSC team. And we also pinged all of the I18N team too, which is like 30 people. And I think the crickets to me kind of suggest that we really should just move forward with this, but I want to make sure there aren't objections, and it would be pretty nice to get some approvals. We do have a thumbs up from Danielle and from Michael Dawson, so that's good. I'll stop there. I've been babbling. I'm sorry.
I guess it's already since I already did a +1, it's clear. I'm happy with you moving forward. And does anybody here have any concerns, or?
If you could make it a comment, it might make it. Nah, don't bother.
Okay.
I shouldn't.
Sure, I'm happy to make it a comment.
There's the link in chat if anybody wants to comment either in the encouraging or discouraging way. But also welcome comments here and now.
I mean, it has been open since January 19th, couple weeks since like the different actions were suggested. Yeah, it's been on the TSC agenda. So unless somebody actually objects, I think you should feel comfortable moving forward.
All right, thanks.
Okay, strategic initiatives. Let me just pop over there. Okay, I'll take it. Thought I had it open, but now I got too many windows. I'm not going to find it. Oh, here we go. Found it. Just flipping back to see who's all here. Antoine, anything on the core promises?
No, nothing this week.
Okay. Startup performance, anything on that front? Sorry, Joy, if you're talking, you're on mute.
Sorry. So we were discussing about snapshot support in the single executable application implementation. And I think we kind of have a pretty good idea about how this should be. And the next part would be discussing about the layout of that blob. So yeah, I expect that we'll be able to have some design maybe this week, and we can start implementing the ideas that we have in the discussion.
Okay, that sounds good.
And also, as another point, we might be renaming the startup performance initiative to startup snapshot initiative, because it's more like less of a performance thing now. It's more like about the snapshot integration, which is more like a feature instead of some optimization. So yeah.
That sounds good. On the next 10 side, I think I probably mentioned this before, but one of the main things discussed recently was survey questions, which I think are pretty much there. We just need to figure out how we run the survey. The hope is to do that in advance of the Collaborator Summit at OpenJS World. And that was the main discussion, I think, from this week. And that takes us to the left, the end of the initiatives for which we have people here. And the end of the agenda. Is there any other topics people would like to discuss or things like that? If not, thanks for everybody's time. And for those watching on the YouTube channel, thanks for watching. And we will see everybody in GitHub and next time. Bye.